Okay, welcome back to another episode of Classic Mix Up.
What's up,
I'm
everybody?
Rosario, as you know.
And I'm Riley. Glad to
Uh,
have everybody back.
yeah, back for episode 13. Yeah.
We're pumped to. We have a pretty routine, good episode for you guys today. So how's it going, Rosario? How you been, man?
Good. Yeah, I've been good. I've been just chilling. It's been not so long since we talked, so not much has changed. Been listening to a lot of music though. Got some things to talk about, obviously. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, good.
How about you?
Dude, it's been going, man. It's hanging, living life. It's trying to take it easy as much as I can because for some reason life's throwing me like just knee shots, just diving at my knees for some reason.
The Dan Campbell bite the kneecaps strategy.
Yeah, exactly. Life's trying to bite my kneecaps off, but I'm trying to just stay positive and
that's good.
Stay in a good mindset. So I feel like I've been doing that good.
I love that shirt, by the way. Show the people there's your shirt.
It's the Outcast Hotlanta.
That's sick.
It's from
if you're listening on Spotify or whatever, you can't see the shirt. So I recommend clicking the link for the YouTube and checking out the shirt.
It's an Outcast shirt. But I don't know if any of the audience knows, but I love Outkast. Probably one of my favorite rap duos of all time. It's probably my favorite.
If you're talking duo, it's got to be number one.
Duo's number one. I was thinking like, oh, what about Black Star? But I'm like, no, dude, like they're number one. Like Outkast is number one duo. I actually whipped this bad boy out today, and my girlfriend was over this morning, and she's like, oh, I've never seen that shirt before, and she likes Outkast. Well, I've like slowly have listened to more Outkast with her, and I was like, yeah, I've had this forever. Like I just haven't. It's just it's a successor to my old Outkast shirt. Do you remember that Outkast shirt?
I was gonna say I don't know if I remember you ever having it
in an little orange square with Big Boy and Andre 3000.
That might have been. I didn't see you very often in high school because obviously we didn't go to the same school. So,
dude, man, I forget. But yeah,
it is weird to think about that we didn't go to the same high school.
That is something.
It feels like we did for some reason.
Well, we didn't talk for like almost like 3 years or something like that.
I feel like we've talked about this on the podcast before. It's like we were best friends in middle school, pretty much.
Yeah.
Didn't go to the same high school. Now here we are, however far apart, but we're back. So
far.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, dude, but it's great, dude. We started this bad boy up to keep in touch.
Yeah, and I'm loving the podcast. I got complimented on the podcast today. So
that's awesome.
Shout out my friend Tyler for watching the podcast.
Yeah,
hopefully you see this one.
Yeah, we got a couple listeners. I know I got family that listens. Shout out to them. I don't know about friends. I don't really communicate with my friends about
it. I feel like a podcast is a hard thing to work into your kind of like everyday, like, a lot of people don't have time for a podcast. I hardly listen to the episodes we put out even after we record them, so I'll be honest. So yeah, I get it, but for the people who do like to listen to podcasts and do stumble upon our content, we thank you. But
this is just a supplement of us just sitting in a Discord chat and talking once a week.
Like we'd be like probably doing this anyways, so we might as well.
Or texting, but I'd rather talk.
I agree.
I hate
here,
dude. Anyway,
we were just talking about Thickfreakness.
So
just like casually.
Yeah.
And then we were like, we should probably start the podcast and do this.
Yeah. Yeah. So we last week's we started up our we did our end of the year wrap for 2022 after quite a bit of a hiatus, and we came back and just listed our top 15 albums, and went back to our normal routine, which is assigning one album to each other. And I gave Rosario the Black Keys' second studio album, Thickfreakness, came out in 2003. And it is it's a really good album. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites because Rosario's probably you've heard my favorite Black Keys album.
I know your favorites.
That was our proto episode.
True.
Episode 0.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Magic Potion Black Keys.
Magic Potion, which is probably maybe I don't know. I think
You liked Rubber Factory a lot.
I was gonna say I think Rubber Factory is probably my favorite out of the. Let's see, I've heard 3 Black Keys albums and the Arcs album, which I really liked too. I was actually surprised by the Arcs album.
They came out with a new album. They dropped a new album on a Friday.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I said I was going to listen to that like a month ago. Yeah.
The B side of the record is arguably better in my opinion than the A side, which is crazy. Like I'm gonna check that out. And we can talk about that a little bit next week because I was very interested in that after hearing their debut. Mm-hmm. It's good. Yeah. But and then Rosario gave me for an album this week. He gave me, what is it?
Below the Heavens by Blu Exile, which we'll get into later. But I guess that's kind of the intro. So we're gonna get into
let's get into
the albums now. Yeah, do you want to start off by talking about Thickfreakness a little? We mentioned it a little bit.
So we'll start with that. So huge Black Keys fan. My favorite band. I got posters all on my ceiling, on my walls, all that. I am obsessed with every album that they've put out. You know, I know every song, seen them twice. So I give Rosario. I'm slowly indoctrinating him with how good they are.
Yeah.
So I gave him Thickfreakness, came out in 2003, and what's pretty cool about this album is it was their first, I guess, like professional record. Would you say professional record? Or
I was gonna say their first
studio.
I don't know. I can't speak for what was it called, the Come Up before that, something like that, or
it was I can't think of it now. I literally have
Big Come Up or something. I know you have it on vinyl right there. He's going to get it.
Yeah, it's the Big Come Up.
The Big Come Up. Yeah. So that I guess you consider more of a like a self-made, you know, like not on a record deal. So I guess you would consider this their first studio album because this was made right after they signed their first record deal, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so basically I know that the Big Come Up was recorded and then they got signed to I think it's Fat Possum.
Yeah.
And then is this Reprise or something like that? Did you ever do that research? I don't know if you did. You say you did a little research.
I did a little research just because I was interested, because I guess we can get right into talking about the album. It's kind of that classic, like kind of garage rock, blues rock that sounds like it was recorded in a basement. And research would lead me to find out that it was recorded in a basement. The album was recorded in one 14-hour session in a basement studio in Akron, Ohio. And it was their second attempt at recording their debut studio album because their first attempt sounded too commercial for their tastes. So, and then they redid it, and we ended up with Thickfreakness, which is quite the opposite from commercial, at least by the industry standards at the time. And it's a super kind of grimy, raw, really just classic sounding Black Keys album. It sounds similar to Rubber Factory, which we've talked about before.
Yeah. I think what's really cool is that what's cool about this album is that it's like their first step. Like I've kind of given you, like, I'm kind of working you backwards of like their pre like mainstream albums. So I'm slowly working you back from like the stuff that I really like, which is like Magic Potion, and Rubber Factory came out before Magic Potion. This came out before Rubber Factory. So, each of these early albums of the Black Keys like have a little caveat to them. Like Rubber Factory was made in a factory, like
which is pretty cool. By the way.
This is really close. This album's really close to like being a garage rock album that was recorded, like one session, that kind of thing. And Rosario mentioned that this was like re-recorded because it sounded too good. It was too good the first time. They're like, we need to sound like shit. Like we need this to sound crappier. And what's interesting from this compared to their first album and even Rubber Factory is that it only has 2 covers, which the first album is almost all covers. There's a few unique songs. And then Rubber Factory has a few more covers.
Yeah.
The two covers on this album are Have Love Will Travel by Richard Berry and Everywhere I Go by Junior Kimbrough, who Junior Kimbrough is like one of their biggest inspirations. They did a full cover album, Chulahoma, in I think after Rubber Factory and in between Rubber Factory and Magic Potion. It's a great album. I might give it to you one week. But yeah, and all the rest of the songs are these like super awesome riffs, super simple beats, like but hard beats. And it's one of my favorite albums. Maybe not of all time, but I throw it on still for fun.
One of your favorites by them, you think?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's I don't really have a like. I don't like it. There's not an album they have that I don't like. So it's kind of hard to be like, oh, I don't.
Hard to rank, I guess, because I know they're all special to you in a different way. So yeah. I will start off by saying we already mentioned a bunch that we talked about Rubber Factory on here before. That was a few episodes ago now. I think this sounds really similar to Rubber Factory, of course, being recorded only, I think, a year apart and kind of in the same stage of their artistry. And the same idea of like Rubber Factory was recorded in a factory. This was recorded in a basement. Like both are kind of not so polished sounding. They sound really similar to me in a lot of ways. I think the only reason I'll give the edge to Rubber Factory in terms of my enjoyment is just because there's a little more variety of songs, with songs like just off the top of my head, like something like The Lanks. I don't think there's really a track like that on here. Yeah. And for me, I like that little variation. I like hearing them kind of branch out and do different things, which is one of the reasons, again, that I really liked the Yours Dreamily album, because that was Dan Auerbach kind of really going out of his comfort zone. And I just like seeing that from an artist. So, but this is a pretty solid album for what you can consider a debut record. So,
yeah, I think I gave you Rubber Factory initially because I thought you would like you. I'm trying to like integrate you into like the variation. Where, like,
I think Rubber Factory is definitely like an easier listen.
Yeah, for like an intro, like
totally
intro to their early stuff. Like,
and for anyone who hasn't heard any Black Keys that might be listening to this, like maybe you just stumbled upon this.
Yeah,
I would recommend going with Rubber Factory before Thickfreakness. Also, probably.
And I think that's my path of where I went from like listening to them, because they have that song 10 a.m. Automatic, which is one on that album, which is one of their first early hits. So I was like, I heard that and I was like, oh, this album's awesome. And it had a lot like the Lynx, and then Aeroplane Blues are
I awesome. Love the Lynx.
And that's kind of like, and what's All Hands Against His Own. That song is sick. Like, it's very, even the production's lighter and softer. The fuzz is almost softer. Where this album, Thickfreakness, is pure just mush. It's literally in the title. It's like Thickfreakness. It's like thick and freaky, like just smush that you can throw together with the guitar and make it sound good. But yeah, you got any favorite tracks that I do?
Yeah, I do have some favorite tracks. I think my favorite track was probably Set You Free. I don't know if that's
oh yeah.
I tend to always pick the most popular songs when I do this.
It was in School of Rock.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was on it. So I don't think it was in the movie. I don't know.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that, but it was on the soundtrack of School of Rock.
Okay, cool. I might have heard it before.
The boom boom.
Yeah, I love that part. That's why I picked it.
Yeah.
So like you kind of mentioned, Set You Free. It's one of the, honestly, I would say, pretty like, no disrespect to what's the drummer's name? Is it Carney? Patrick Carney. Yeah. No disrespect to him or his work. It's just that I'd say probably 9 times out of 10, Dan Auerbach usually outshines him on a song with the guitar versus the drums.
The talent. I feel like this is a band where Patrick Carney, like, he's got some ideas and he's a big production guy.
Okay. Like, more of the technical side.
Yeah. But he he'll take things from other drummers, but he is the backbone for Dan Auerbach's guitar player.
Right. They go together perfectly.
Yeah.
But the drums are never really outshining the guitar. However, on the third track of Thickfreakness, Set You Free, I think the drums kind of outshine the guitar a little bit, and I love that intro with the big heavy, the doom, and then like I think there's like a tambourine in the background if I remember correctly.
Yep.
I loved that little inclusion. Just I don't know, that was my favorite. A couple others that I really liked were what was it? Have Love Will Travel, which I think you said was a cover, right?
Yeah. Have Love Will Travel is a cover. And they do it justice. Like, I think what's cool about their covers, early covers at least, is that they definitely had respect for the artist that they were covering, but they made it their own. Like, this song
I was gonna say,
sound like a Richard Berry song. It sounds like, I
right.
mean,
So I didn't know it was a cover originally, so I didn't go back and listen to the original song. But so you might know, is that kind of bridge in the middle, like that guitar solo, is that in the original song or was that added?
Oh no, that's pure, like that's pure artistry.
And that's what I figured. So yeah, like that's the main thing I noticed from Have Love Will Travel is like kind of right in the middle of the song. There's like a insane bridge where like Dan Auerbach really just shreds the guitar. It's like it's just a sick guitar solo, and like yeah, I was really impressed with that. And like you said, it's a good way they kind of make the cover their own and like bring their own element to it. They bring that heavy shredding guitar to a classic song, and it turned out really good.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think what's cool about the other cover on the album too, which is Everywhere I Go, is that it totally is the opposite of the fifth. Like, so it's the seventh song, and Have Love Will Travel is the fifth song. Everywhere I Go is this long, I think it's the longest song on the album.
It is, yeah. It's like 6 minutes, yeah.
So it's drawn out, but it's also covered. But you would, like if you go and listen to the cover of the original song of Everywhere I Go, it's like you can hear that it's the same guitar riff, but they take it and like turn
their own thing.
And you could see their inspirations. And I think like what's cool about their early albums is that these guys always state that like Captain Beefheart, like Junior Kimbrough.
Right. Is Everywhere I Go a Junior Kimbrough song?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I thought so.
So and then guys like T Model Ford, Bo Diddley, like all these like kind of like more like kind of eccentric guys, like they take their sounds and like are like, oh, and super inspired. Or like there's this album I'll have to give you, actually give it to you this week.
Okay.
That's by Muddy Waters, which is he's a classic blues guy, or like jazzy kind of blues guy, but he did a psychedelic album where he re-recorded a bunch of his songs, and it's very distorted and psychedelic, and that's a huge inspiration for their early stuff. So you'll hear those influences. But yeah, like I don't know, dude. This album's fun. I think like that's where like
it's not like it's kind of one of those albums where you can tell like it's not like I like that like I don't know. I guess I say Magic Potion as an example, even though it's been a long time since I heard that, admittedly. Magic Potion definitely seemed like they were a little more mature and were a little more focused, I think, and a little more driven on something. Whereas you have something like Thickfreakness, which happens often in an artist's like early career, where they genuinely are kind of just having fun with it and just making songs that like they would want to hear, I think. Dan Auerbach is incredible on the guitar as usual. Which yeah, I mean, can't complain about that. The only thing I will say, in terms of maybe some negatives for it is like I think it's one that you need to really be a fan of the genre, or at least the artist, to appreciate, because like we've said, it is it's pretty like amateur, like they weren't polished, they were very raw. And something about it just seems like I can tell that you would definitely appreciate a lot of the things on the album, but for me, it makes it so that a lot of the songs kind of sound similar, and I don't get that variation that you get in like a Rubber Factory or a Magic Potion, which are probably the albums that I prefer to this one.
And that totally makes sense. I mean, I think even if you ever listen to their first album, the not studio release, The Big Come Up, it's even less polished and more covers. Right. They even do like a little bit of sampling in it, like and it's a little bit, they're inspired by like Wu-Tang and like Enter the Three.
That's kind of cool.
Members, like they have like little excerpts and they kind of do, because they're trying to figure out their sound.
Right.
And then this album, they're like, okay, we're going with the garage rock.
Yeah. If I had to guess, I'm not really a part of the Black Keys fandom at all. I've just started listening to them this past year, but if I had to guess, I'd say probably a lot of like hardcore fans like you probably really like the older stuff, like the more stuff like Thickfreakness and Rubber Factory.
Yeah.
But I'd say like the average person probably prefers something more newer where they've kind of found their sound and not really gone with this super kind of technical, a little more one-dimensional type sound.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I was like gonna bring that up, like thinking about what to talk about on about this album when you're bringing it up. But like I think what's interesting about their sound now is that it is super polished. I think it's over polished because a thing that I was worried about when I listened to the new Arcs album is like, oh, it's gonna be shit. It's gonna be super over polished, produced, all that. The sound's gonna be lost. It's just gonna sound like elevator music because the Black Keys last album, Let's Rock, was super polished, super sounded. They try to be more bluesy, like almost like if they just let it loose a little bit, it would have been like a Thickfreakness or a Magic Potion.
Okay, yeah, they try to reel it in a little.
But it was super polished, like super slow, kind of super, everything kind of sounded the same in a bad way. There was no like cool riffs. It was just very like, so I think that's why like, giving you this album, it's like, yeah, it sounds the same, but I like to see the evolution and know that an artist really has long-term variation. Like you could go and see where they've come from since this album and be like, well, these guys are, they're great to have in the music sphere because they have that like raw, like unique sound in the early years. So they can, if someone were to like, now they're big producers and Dan Auerbach owns Easy Eye Sound, which is what a lot of they do production through, and the Arcs albums are released through that album and that through that label. And but like if they had an artist come in and say, hey, we want to do like garage rock, we want to have a distorted sound, they would go in and be like, oh yeah, we can do that. Or do you got a country guy or a folk guy that wants to come in and do a folk or country album or a bluegrass album? They know how to do that too, because they're all kind of doing that now. They're doing slower stuff, they're doing bluesier stuff.
Yeah, and we're talking 20 years ago at this point. Sound's going to turn 20 this year. So of course, for an artist who's been around that long, you would expect them to have come a long way.
Yeah,
and I think it is cool to look back at their roots, and that's why I'll say that I'm sure that a lot of Black Keys fans will have appreciation for this album, and I have appreciation for this album in a way, but yeah, I just prefer the other ones, but I respect this album. It's obviously, like I said, it's where they came from. So
yeah, awesome. Well, I'm glad you like it. Like I don't know, because I feel like like we did the Patrick Sweeney album, and I had to be like, hey man, like you got to listen to the guitar like it's someone singing,
right?
Because a lot of the blues guys, a lot of the jazz guys that play guitar, it's supposed to be replacing an instrument like Jimi Hendrix, like he's not soul or blues, but he played rock. And he, he heard his guitar as like a trumpet, like it was like simulating horns. So like other guys it's singing, or other guys it's other things, I guess.
Whatever they do, yeah, right.
So, this is one of them that like, okay, you got to listen to the riffs as someone singing, or lyrics, or treat them like moods, and
right. And you got to remember that it's only a 2-man band also.
Oh yeah.
So it's like the guitar is almost, it comes to life so much. It almost is like a third member, because there's a lot of guitar solos and bridges. Like on the title track, for example, the first track, Thickfreakness, like the bridge on that song is like amazing. It's like super. Yeah, I don't know. Dan Auerbach just shreds the guitar, and it's sick. So
yeah,
not much to be said about it. Other than
what's awesome is that this album did well for their live sets too. Like it added so much energy to their live.
I bet, yeah.
Because like when they toured with just the two of them, you need the big sounds to fill up a room. You just have like 2 amps or maybe 1 amp, and you play to a bar full of maybe 50.
Right. They're still coming up,
and you. Heavy guitar riffs and thick, fuzzy, like where you
staticky like sound.
Yeah, it's gonna fill a room better. So as they get more production, more polished, these songs get phased out by songs that may be more.
I was just gonna ask if they play their old songs live still or no.
Yeah, they played. Excuse me, they played they played something on their last set. I saw them in September for my birthday.
Yeah.
And I forgot what song they played. I think Hard Row, maybe.
Okay, yeah, that sounds
Or Have
pretty good
Level
too.
Travel. I think they played Have Level Travel.
Okay, yeah.
And it was totally different from the album, but it was fun.
Right.
Like, they made it more poppier. And I'm sure they played that, almost 20 years at the point of playing the song.
Right. It's gonna like evolve over time. It's almost like they covered it originally and kind of gave their own spin on it. It's almost like they're covering it again and giving it a different spin on it.
I'm not surprised that if like one of these albums, like now these albums are hitting like 20 years of being out. I won't be surprised if they do an album of re-recordings of like new, like almost like because I don't know.
And kind of like go with their newer, more polished kind of poppy sound.
Yeah, because for their first album, they didn't re-release it for 20th anniversary, but they did they released their first album on live. That was like their first live performance on vinyl. That's what they did for the 20th anniversary of their band. But they haven't re-released their first album yet for 20 years, but they haven't done anything for Thickfreakness yet or announced anything.
Right.
So
I don't know what month it came out, but it's pushing 20 years.
Yeah, so I would be interested in what they're gonna do because they come out. They're usually a band that comes out with anniversary stuff pretty often. They have a lot of stuff. They like to do remixes and
that's cool. I always kind of like that. I don't know. It could be sometimes like kind of corny or not. Maybe miss the mark, but I like when bands kind of like recognize and appreciate kind of where they came from. Like for example, like Blink-182 did Enema of the State 20th anniversary tour 2019.
Yeah.
Like that was awesome because me personally, I wouldn't be that excited to go watch Blink-182 play their new albums on tour. But when I found out they were doing, my favorite album, Enema of the State 20th anniversary, like bang, bought tickets. Like I went to that in 2019. That was my second concert, and it was amazing.
That was awesome. With Matt Skiba. Like that was even
right. And they still they did it justice still. Shout out Matt Skiba because
if they just played California all the way through, I think I'd be happy. But
yeah, California is going to be 7-8, maybe a California 10-year anniversary tour in a couple years or something.
Man, and then they just do that. But they wouldn't do that because I don't think Tom DeLonge would play Matt Skiba.
Yeah, I don't think he'd be into that. But who knows? He'll even be in the band in 3 years.
No, he's got to be chasing the government for all the alien cover-ups and shit.
Yeah, I don't. I don't even know. I'm excited to see where they go, I guess, because him coming back was like so shocking. But anyways, that's way off topic.
Yeah, I don't know, dude.
Yeah, I think that just about wraps it up for Thickfreakness. So for me, I don't know if you have anything else to say, but
I would say I would say like don't listen to this album if you want to relax. This is number one. If you want to have a fun time and while you're like driving or like that, this is a good time to play this album. And I mean, at least for me, a lot of the songs have caught on after several listens. Like I appreciated the slower, maybe like Everywhere I Go is caught on to me. And then like, If You See Me and I Cry Alone.
Yeah. I like Hurt Like Mine for a slower tempo song. Yeah.
Yeah. Those kind of slower songs that may not have like what you're looking for initially. I think it has a good inverse of like the slower songs. You could come back if you like the faster songs. You can come back and listen to the slower songs. But yeah, I would recommend this album. It's a still fun album to listen to, 100%.
Yeah, I agree. I think that pretty much sums it up. So yeah, I guess continuing on, we'll talk about the album that I picked for Riley. My pick was Below the Heavens by Blu Exile, which is a producer-rapper duo. Kind of underground, but not in the way of like they're unknown. More of just they never really did anything to push themselves into the mainstream. They're definitely, Blu's the type of rapper where I'd say most like hip-hop heads, like, people who are into like in rap circles definitely know about him. But people who are purely in the mainstream may not have heard of him. So I guess I kind of wanted to shed some light on him and his work. So yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, I never heard of Blu Exile. Like it never, and
yeah,
I get why you gave me this album though. Like I totally understand. Like it's definitely something I would listen to. Like it's funny because I actually like commented on a tweet that you put out that said 2000s
Yeah, it was just today.
better than 90s.
I tweeted that while I was listening to this.
Exactly. And I totally understood that because once I re-listened to it, I was like
I'm gonna get into that. I think the samples in this album are used really creatively.
It's
I think
true.
that's what kind of makes it.
It's true. Okay, so I'll break it down a little bit. So
Yeah, go ahead.
I love the flow, the blues flow on this. Like what I think is kind of the downfall, but yet I don't hate what I guess like what kind of stagnates me on this album is that his flow is the same on every song. And it's
I
kind
agree.
of
It gets old kind of quick, but
yeah, it's kind of like the past, like it's kind of listening to like a Boldy James album after Boldy James album of like, no offense to Boldy, we love Boldy,
we love him,
but like there's a few albums of Boldy's that are exactly the same sounding, same bars, everything, and I think that like when you listen, this album's an hour long, so like if I'm sitting there and I'm listening and it's like, and I want to listen to a good beat and like I'm like okay, like I love My World is a great opener. Great lyrics, great everything. I loved it, didn't hate it, saved it. Was like, okay, this is good. But then the next song kind of sounded the same. And the next song kind of sounded the same. And I'm like, okay, I got to give it a chance. But then by like, I love Dancing in the Rain. I think that's his most popular song.
I think it is, yeah.
Okay, but I love that. Lyrically, it kind of sounded different too. Like beat wise, it was kind of like more of a slower, emotional kind of thing. I love the topic on it. Like, I mean, just like he's kind of feeling dead end and like he's 22 trying to, I think there's a line like, I'm 22, don't know if I should put a gun to my head or something like that, whatever.
Yeah, right. Like he's not making it in rap or whatever,
like,
but yeah, trying to figure out what he wants to do.
But a lot of the songs on this album are a lot of that topic too, of like, don't know what to do. World around me is kind of crazy. So I guess like a lot of people need to hear that in rap, or like the people that like more spiritual rap or like honest rap. Like we listen to Saba, and he kind of does that where like he talks about the truth. It's not flash and it's not fake stuff. It's he's talking about his feelings. It's like emotional rap. And I think Blu, like his bars are crazy for rapping. Like
they are
a lot. Well, I was like, oh, okay, like I could hear rhymes in it that reminded me of Mos Def. Huge, like this reminds me of Black Star for some reason. I was like, man, this is like, I need to bring up Mos Def because this guy, like some bars are like Mos Def bars, which is not a diss. Like Mos Def is probably one of the best like rhyming rappers.
Rhymers, yeah.
Like
I agree.
Next to Doom and Rakim from Eric being Rakim.
Yeah. And then I'd throw Andre 3000 in there.
Yeah,
and early Eminem.
All the way. Eminem, even throw, Biggie in there if you really want to, whatever. But again, like, which is great. So you throw Mos Def into one of these best like lyrical rappers, and then you got Blu, who sounds a lot like him, and I'm impressed. Like, and I've listened to any of his stuff, so I don't know if he like branches out. Like, does he ever branch out and do other productions, or is it all the same stuff?
He does other productions in terms of like he works with other producers occasionally, but he's certainly most famous for his work with Exile. So like obviously like Blu is his own person and Exile is his own person. They work with other people, but the duo like Blu and Exile is what both of them are most famous for, at least from my understanding. They just released an album. I shouldn't say just, it's actually, it's been 3 years now. Yeah. They released an album in 2020, which the name is escaping me for some reason, but it got very high praise. And yeah, it's a really good. Oh, Miles. It's called Miles. Miles is another great record from them. But yeah, no, I like to go back to what you said about kind of the pitfall of this album is Blu using the same flow. The only thing for me where I can not necessarily ignore that, but to where I stay interested and entertained for most of the, I think like hour and 5 minutes or something. Yeah, is that he definitely changed up the subject matter a lot and is talking subject matter that is not really talked about in hip hop, especially at this time in 2007. And even since 2007 is not really stuff that's touched on a lot. like for example, The Good Life, that song, he's talking about finding out his girlfriend is pregnant and like that he's going to become a
Yeah.
father.
Yeah.
And it's like a 5-minute song where that's like the main focus. And it's like, it was really cool and refreshing to hear a song in rap like about that. Because it's not a topic you're going to see rapped about often. And same thing in a song like right before it, there's the song Greater Love, which is one of my favorites. I mean, of course, there's like a million love songs, like I get that, but yeah, just the way he does it is really good, and like just having that variation in topics and that variation in kind of just the subject matters that he's going into really keeps me entertained, and that's obviously I think Blu's greatest strength is the flow is good. The rhyme schemes are complex. He spits them casually, but also it's that he's like we talked about with Saba, and I also think of J. Cole for this is like they rap about real stuff and they make it relatable, and that's like what makes music that I want to listen to at least. So yeah,
that's great. And I think like every time you give me a rap album, not even just a rap album, any album you give me, I have to listen to the subject matter.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
a big lyric guy.
We always say that.
Meaning, and I got to say it every time.
Yeah.
Where I could like a song because it sounds cool, because I like guitar,
more musical. Yeah. I go back and forth because I mean I'll also it's no secret I also I love Whole Lotta Red by Cardi. Like I like trap music and stuff like that also. So I kind of go back and forth. But yeah, one thing that does really draw me in, as long as it doesn't sound bad, obviously, but one thing that draws me in is having a unique subject matter and a unique way of telling stories and just getting thoughts across. Yeah, and Blu's lyricism is impressive. We mentioned his rhyming. He is one of the best rhymers, and he has a whole album. Like this is just an example to show off his like lyrical ability. In 2021, he dropped an album where like every song he does like an entendre with the word blue, and they're all different. So like the whole theme of the album, he raps the word blue like hundreds of times, but he uses it in all different unique ways. So that album's cool. It's gimmicky, but it's cool. And he reminds me of one of those guys, like one of those kind of old school guys who really prides himself on being able to like flip words and think of double entendres and just like be creative with his writing, which is I don't want to be like a corny old head and say it's a lost art in hip hop, but I think like
it is
complex rhyme schemes are becoming a lost art. So
yeah, but what's crazy is like guys that we listen to now, like that are coming out now, like Jid and like basically
my favorite rappers, they're still doing that. So
yeah, so like Jid's doing that, where we're like, whoa, what did he just say?
Yeah, I love when I hear something for the first time.
Boldy does that all the time.
Yeah, like, he does. And Rome Streets is really good with that too. Bars are crazy.
Even our king.
Yeah, Westside Gunn. He gets into that a little bit. Westside Gunn, I think, is more of like about the delivery, and like the shockingness of it all.
Yeah.
But which is becoming more popular. The delivery is really becoming more popular than what you're actually saying. But yeah, I think Blu is obviously a really good writer, a really interesting writer, and his flow is good. I mean, it gets repetitive. It does. And any album that's this long, no matter what it is or who it's by, we all know that by now that I have a really short attention span. So I typically try to keep my album listenings to under an hour. But yeah, this one keeps me entertained for most of the way. And I think another reason for that, I guess we'll kind of transition. We've talked a lot about Blu. I'd like to talk about the other side of things, which would be Exile, and more specifically, I guess, just how perfect these two guys are for each other. Right. I mentioned earlier, both of their most popular work is when they're working with each other. And I think Exile's beats are a perfect match for Blu, and the other way around. Like Blu is perfect for those beats. Every beat is like pretty different. They all kind of fit into the same vein, but they're each unique in their own way. And Blu like rides them all like perfectly, and it really the beats like accentuate Blu's rapping, and Blu's rapping like accentuates the beats. Like I really think it's a match made in heaven for these two guys.
Oh yeah, what I like though is that what's really cool is that we kind of like find commonalities in the rap that we really like,
Mhm.
and it's cool production and the rapper that has really good bars and that is like
Yep.
actually is used like talks about or like uses rap as an art. Like it's not just
Totally.
like say whatever, most of the time at least. Um and I think Exile kind of like is very Griselda production or
Yeah.
Dreamville production.
His use of samples definitely remind me of like, like I think Exile's big talent is
Conductor.
his sampling ability. And also if you look at the common denominator between every great producer of all time, I tweeted it earlier today on my personal Twitter. You have Madlib, Jay Dilla, Kanye, and you can even throw Exile in there with those guys. Their really big talent is sampling, and
Mm.
especially getting creative with sampling. So like I one of the reasons I love this album is that
And
to
Alchemist.
yeah,
Mhm.
and Alchemist and a lot of the modern guys still like yeah, Alchemist is definitely a good shout for that. But
Because
one thing about this album is that it's like unique sounding, and the
yeah,
reason that I find it so unique is because the samples are unique, like the samples themselves that he chooses are unique, and the way that he like flips them and chops them is pretty different from like I don't know. It just makes you think about it in a different way, which I like.
yeah, I think what's really cool is that like it's cool to like know that guys like Exile um you know were a part of like there's probably a production tree somewhere of who inspired who did
For
what,
sure, yeah. Right.
and like this is 2007, so he's probably been in the game for a little bit at this point, but
Right.
also was inspired by probably like Madlib and Alchemist who were doing, or like Jay Dilla, who's
Yeah, right. I'm sure Exile was inspired heavily by Jay Dilla, at least just listening to the beats like
oh dude
sonically.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's like, but then you can also look at it and be like, oh, like Conductor, like like the
Right.
Griselda beats, like
Right.
that.
He's kind of making beats that are kind of like this with those
Oh,
sample
dude,
loops.
100%.
Yeah.
But it's cool now to see guys that are like obviously inspired by this type of production.
Yeah, it's almost like
Um,
Thickfreakness, kind of going back to the roots of,
oh
you
yeah, we
know.
can take this back. You could even
Yeah.
go, like you could even do De La Soul and like Tribe Called
Oh, of
Quest,
course, and that was, I mean,
Eric
going back to the
B.
argument of our little debate that we had earlier, where I said I think the 2000s were probably the golden era of sampling and hip hop, which is also, again, don't want to sound like an old head, but also becoming a little bit of a lost art for the mainstream.
Yeah.
Where then you said like you think it's the 90s, maybe like.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk. I mean, dude, I think like so. I went back once. I like wanted to have an extra topic for the pod,
Yeah,
and I was like, okay, that'd be good to bring up. Like, I wonder how how far
sampling's
off is
kind of
that statement
evolved.
for me? How drastic is that statement for me to say? And it's like pretty balanced. Like, I think we like underestimate both sides. Like, what came out in the 2000s, what came out in the 90s, and it's like I think that like I would say that hip hop had a golden age for literally like 2 decades because it just had different. It had because with hip hop you have the different areas.
Right.
You had West Coast, you
And
had
they're
East
yeah.
Coast, you had South, you had like Chicago, you had Detroit, and that stuff like all of those evolutions happened from the early 90s until I would say the mid 2000s, mid to late
Yeah,
2000s.
I'd say everything, kind of before the internet was very regional, and guys were, instead of getting inspired by, let's say for example, like, it's 2023, any kid from Detroit like us could find this West Coast rap album on Apple Music. Now, let's say before the days of the internet, if you lived in the West Coast, you were listening to West Coast albums because that's what you had
Oh,
from the hand to
100%.
hand and the word of mouth. So that's how you kind of got these regional sounds evolving. And yeah, I mean, I'll say another thing is that I'll admit that I have like a pretty limited range of knowledge for 90s hip hop because I
Yeah.
mean, of course I've listened to plenty, but not nearly as much as what's out there. I
Yeah.
haven't even gotten into
It's
so
just it's
much.
hard.
So
It's hard because you can definitely tell that the 90s inspired like
Yeah, I mean it's like very sequential to me. Like I said this on Twitter, like the 90s was the groundwork, obviously. I mean, that's just chronologically how it had to be. I think in the 2000s you had guys really started getting more creative with the samples though, with the samples they chose and the way they were chopped and flipped and how they were using the songs.
Dude,
I don't know. So, yeah, just something about like
you. I'm sorry to cut you off, but
no, go ahead. I don't really have a thought.
You gotta like. There's like amazing sampling in the 90s. Like I think like you're totally saying the right thing, that it is more polished in the 2000s and you have everybody coming together and stuff. But like I don't think we gotta like take an effect, guys that you've never heard. Like, have you listened to, like, Slum Village, like Jay Dilla's like Detroit group?
Yeah, I mean I have a little bit, but when I think Jay Dilla, I also think
that's
2000s though.
He produced all of his when he
in
was
the 90s,
JD, before he was Jay Dilla in the who was it? The the Soulquarians. So Soulquarians were the a 90s like collective. It was The Roots, it was Jay Dilla, it was Q-Tip, it was Erykah Badu, I think D'Angelo. I don't know if I said D'Angelo, but Common, like all of these like the more spiritual rappers and producers came together and like did all this like music together. And but then you guys like they were crazy. Like I mean the Roots were inspired by Jay Dilla's production a lot of the time. Like, you know, Roots came out in 92, 93. Then, you know, that was around when Midnight Marauders came out, Tribe Called Quest, and like Dilla was releasing stuff with Slum Village and all that kind of stuff. And but then they did I think he did he did a Far Side. He did a bunch of Far Side production in the 90s, which, you know, Passing Me By, like all that kind of stuff. He did I think it's Laba Cabin Fornio or something like that, which is Far Side's second album, which is my favorite Far Side album. It came out in 1995. No, that's Jay Dilla's prime, is the early to
the
mid
90s.
90s.
Yeah.
He died.
That's interesting. Yeah, I know he died in the 2000s, but I guess I never really dove into that kind of like that early 90s stuff.
Yeah, I reckon all like Outkast prime late 90s.
Yeah.
Like I mean AT Aliens, Aquemini,
of course.
Supercalifragilistic Funky Music or whatever, their first album's great.
Yeah.
And Stankonia 2000, amazing.
Right.
You know, so like that's not even that's still made in the 99.
Right. Right. You know, early 2000s.
But then like I'm just trying to like Wu-Tang's albums known for their sampling. Nas known for his sampling. Beastie Boys even.
I was gonna bring up Nas, and which also ties back into Below the Heavens, because when I think of the great sampling of the 90s, I think Tribe Called Quest, and they have some memorable ones to me. But also just because like this is what I've listened to the most though. Like I would love to have, which I guess I am right now, having someone more knowledgeable than me. Like I love having someone more knowledgeable than me like recommend me stuff to listen to get me more exposed to that more like early 90s stuff, because you know, I already admitted that I don't know as much about the 90s as I do the 2000s, and you know it really just comes down to like personal biases, you know. So
yeah. And I mean, listen, I like totally get it. Like
I think it's a good debate. Like I said, I would love to have someone who's more knowledgeable than me in both those decades. You know, neither of those decades are even my. If we're talking about rap, like the only decade that I can feel like I can confidently talk about and like know pretty much everything that was going on was the 2010s.
Yeah, I mean,
before that, I lived through it. You know.
Yeah, it's like the 2000s is great, different music, man. Like, I mean, you even look like I'm looking up playlists and stuff like. Curated playlist of 2000s and 90s music, and we can look back in hindsight and say, oh, this was great. But 2000s was Jay-Z, you know, that was like when Jay-Z took off. That's Eminem, that's Ludacris, you know, like
and a lot of beats those guys were rapping on too, like when you look back at them, this is my maybe hot take about 2000s rap. A lot of people I've talked to a lot of people about this, and they've actually agreed those that some of the beats that they were rapping on in the 2000s like didn't age well at all. Like they sound goofy, but then some beats from the 2000s like are still the best of all time. Like the one like like Madlib's work obviously, and
Oh yeah, that's
Kanye, and
the 2000s. I would
it's a
say,
polarizing decade. To
oh
me.
yeah, like, but you look back at like 2000s like underground stuff, and then you're like, man, like what were people not listening to? You know,
Right, that's
like
true. Like you look at something like Below the Heavens, that was considered like heavily
all of
underground.
MF Doom's albums, all of them, like
Right.
you know what I mean, like basically all of them, like what, like, I mean, obviously now in hindsight, a bunch of nerds love,
Love MF
MF
Doom, yeah.
Doom,
But at the time, he was obviously very underground.
but I don't know, man. Like that's, and it's just like you see seeds planted in the 2000s that are definitely like you see grow, and like Kanye and Drake and the guys that are going to be big, even like I'm trying to think like Lupe Fiasco and like all like Chicago kind of like pops up a little bit, like it's like
Right.
more like Midwest stuff, like even Eminem being popular, so it's like it's different, it's crazy, and then that leads
it's an interesting discussion. I think the 2000s were obviously, I already said, polarizing, but yeah, I don't know. Basically, I came up with that tweet just when I heard the way that Exile was using samples in this album, and it made me think of, I guess, probably like my favorite and the most unique sampling ever, which came from MF Doom and Madlib, respectively. And yeah, that's just where I come up with that. I didn't really think about, because to me, when I think 90s beats, I think the samples were more low key, if that makes sense. I think a lot of them are just really baked into the beats,
right,
to where you almost don't notice them. But when you look at the 2000s, they're getting used more creatively, almost as kind of like how we mentioned with Dan Auerbach's guitar being its own instrument. And a lot of these songs with the soul samples and the different, things that they're layering up on top of the beats, it's almost like there's another person on the song with Blu kind of complimenting him that he's rapping over.
Oh yeah, like,
and that's what I like. I love a good soul sample loop.
Yeah, and I think like what they can get away with and what they got away with in the 90s was direct ripoff. Like they literally took a beat and put it on a track. But I think 2000s, the copyright stuff kind of got bad, and people had to like not use iconic beats or good drums, and they kind of had to make their own beats more, or recreate a sound they were trying to go for from the sample with their own beats, or distort the beat, make it more soulful, or slow it down, distort it, that kind of thing. So, I mean, you see guys like Madlib and Alchemist come out of that, and like it's good. It's amazing. Jay Dilla. I watched this little mini documentary. Like there's this channel that does like history videos. I forgot his name. The guy, he used to play bass. He played bass on like a bunch of R&B and rap stuff. He's like adjacent to like Jaco Pastor, who played on like a bunch of like early 90s like bass lines. He played, I think he still tours with people now and plays, like he played with the Roots, he played with I think Q-Tip and all those kind of type of guys. And but anyway, he was like talking about I forgot. Oh, Jay Dilla, and how he Jay Dilla heard a beat by a drummer and wanted to emulate a human drummer on a drum pad. So he, like it's funny how drum pads are made to make beats more crisper and on tick, on beat, and he wanted to take the drum maker and the drum beat maker
and make it sound more like human error.
Make it sound off. There's no repeating beats in some of his songs. There's no, the rhythm switches up a bit, or it's a little off beat, or because when you really play in a band, the things that make the music unique and not so robotic is the mistakes, the stuff that is natural to your ear that your ear doesn't pick up. It's comfortable, it's like that slight off tuning makes you feel like you're in it. It makes you feel more involved. It makes you feel more personable, you know. So that's what Jay Dilla kind of did, which is really cool. And I think
That's
sound
honestly
translate.
genius.
It transverses 2 generations of rap that is vastly different. Hell, I would even say 3 and 4 at this point, because you have guys that are still rapping on Jay Dilla beats, and he's been dead for 18 years almost.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It really is when you put it like that.
Crazy to say that people born in 2005 are going to be adults, though. That
is also crazy. I saw someone on Twitter who was born in 2007 today. So I was getting ready to go to school in 2007, which I guess doesn't mean that I was that old, but still.
No, I mean, even my sister's, 4 years younger than me, but I'm like, dude, you can drive, you can do all this stuff.
It's kind of weird. I do feel old when I think about being 20 years old and not being a teenager, which I still am for the record, but it won't be long till I'm not. So
yeah. Here.
Yeah, I know. Old man Riley over there, Gramps.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. That's a whole different topic for another day, but
oh man, age, we're not even that old, dude. We're young.
I know. I sometimes I feel young, sometimes I feel old.
You so much life.
I know.
I think it makes me feel warm inside, honestly, to be like, oh, that kid is that's cool. That makes me feel like, there's people that will look up to me one day. You know what I mean? There's people
that is kind of nice to think about.
My little cousins are 11, and they're they actually listen to me and think I'm cool and stuff. And I'm like,
yeah,
dude, that's awesome.
That is pretty awesome.
And I have
you know what else is awesome?
What's that?
The World Is Yours by Nas interpolation on the title track of this album.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to find time in this podcast to point out just how much I love that. So I guess I'll just do it now.
Go ahead.
Okay. Below the Heavens Part 1. It interpolates The World Is Yours by Nas. And going back to what I was saying about the whole 2000s sampling thing, is basically all it is just the chorus of The World Is Yours is by Nas, which is just saying the world is yours and then saying it's mine, it's mine, it's mine. Whose world is this?
I love
and that just plays kind of in the background of Below the Heavens, and it just the way and obviously because it's the chorus of a song, the way Nas says it is in a catchy and repeatable manner. So then being able to take that and extrapolate it over a beat. Well, if you think about what a beat is, it's really just a repetition of those sounds that then become they form the whole beat. And basically that's just taking those words that Nas says and using them almost as an instrument, like a drum or a cymbal 100%. Or whatever, and using them in the beat.
It's a sample. Right. That's literally what a sample is.
It's literally the essence of sampling, and I think that's one of the most perfect examples of it. It just works so well in that song, and I love that song to death, and I love this album to death for all the moments like that where it uses a sample beautifully, cuts it, flips it, whatever.
I'm definitely gonna come back to this album. It's just such a long album.
It is long.
The songs are the same, so I think listening through, it's hard to listen to this album all the way through.
It's gonna be one of those ones if you do come back to it, which I would hope you do. It's gonna be one of those ones where you'll pick out different songs at different times of your life if it sticks with you for a while. So I heard this album for the first time probably 2 or 3 years ago. Didn't think too much of it. I mean, I'm like, oh, this is good rapping, and then the more I got into it, the more I got into music, and the more I got into 2000s rap, I started just picking out different things.
You appreciated it more.
Yeah, I appreciated it more. And even on my most recent re-listen, which was this morning, I picked out songs that I love this whole album, but songs that I just didn't recognize for being that good before. Like, for example, I'll say Cold Hearted.
I love that track. Song.
Yeah, but on my first God knows how many listens, maybe just because it's at the end of the track list, I maybe sort of wrote it off. But for whatever reason today, that one really resonated with me, and that could jump on my playlist as early as tomorrow. And that's just that's how you make a good album. It's got, how old is it now?
Longevity.
It's 16 years old, and people are still finding songs that they resonate with on it, and just picking out different lyrics that they're hearing for the first time, noticing new double entendres. it really is just a really, really well made album, and I'm glad you liked it. Had some good things to
I
take away
I
from it.
loved. I didn't know how I'd feel about like. I guess the stretch from like good. So Soul Rising kind of was like not my favorite. I don't
Yeah,
know
pretty
why.
average, probably.
I don't think I caught it like interesting, but I love Cold Hearted. I love the topic, and I
Mhm.
didn't know how I was going to transition into Below the Heavens because I'm like, oh, usually two parters, like oh, different sounds and like kind of things or like
Yeah,
whatever.
right.
But I loved Below the Heavens part one. I love the World Is Mine thing, and
Yeah,
then but its transition into part two was really cool. I liked part two.
yeah.
It's slow.
Part
It
two is
was
definitely
nothing
underrated.
like
Yeah,
I loved Below the Heavens part two because it was nothing like any other song on the album, and I think complemented the first part really well. Um, so I'd say like if you're fatigued with this album, uh, kind of
yeah,
like take a second from listening to it all the way through, and then go back and listen to like Cold Hearted and Below the Heavens Part One and Two. Like
yeah. I was gonna say
I
maybe do it in parts, or even just go to Blue's Spotify or Apple Music page and kind of see his top songs are "Dancing
you
in the
get the
Rain,"
gist.
First Things First, and "Simply Amazing," which
Yeah. And you want to know what song I want to go back and listen to is I Am. Because, long songs are kind of like, oh, hit or miss. You're either like
right.
this song you'll listen to all the way through. And especially now with streaming, we get spoiled and because we can skip and jump around whenever we want.
Mhm.
And, if it's song's boring, we don't listen to it. If it's too long, we're like, oh man, I can listen to another album or something. I love it. I'm a half. I would get like I got halfway through it and I was like, okay, this is like one of my favorite songs in the album.
Yeah, it's
Sounds
it's
great.
just it's hard to appreciate it just because of the fact that it's a 7-minute song at the end of an hour plus long album that does kind of feel like a slog at times, but that is if you're if you're interested in bars, like that's one of the best songs to listen to on the whole album, probably.
Yeah, and there's a couple of the beat switches up just a tad bit, and like it's good.
Yeah.
It's
I would highly recommend a song to you by Blue that's not on this album. It's called Mr. Blue Sky, and like as the name suggests, it samples the classic song Mr. Blue Sky. And if you like the World Is Yours sample on Below the Heavens, I highly recommend listening to the Mr. Blue Sky sample.
what album is that off of?
It's on the album that I was mentioning earlier called The Color Blue, where every song is a play on the word blue, and he raps the word blue like a million times. It was
Oh,
released in 2021. Yeah, Blue's one of those guys who also is super consistent. Everything I've heard from him, he's a very talented rapper, and he's been around for a long time, and he's still making music, and he's working more and more with different producers also, which is cool. Not changing his
he has
sound
an
too
album with
much, but trying different stuff, which is cool.
so his album Bad Neighbor, or it's like him and Med and Madlib,
Yep.
and he's Haji Beats on it, MF Doom,
Yep. Bad
Anderson
Neighbor,
.Paak.
yeah, Anderson .Paak's on there too, yeah. Yeah, Bad Neighbor is one of Madlib's more underrated projects. Med
I
is
would
or
definitely
Med, I'm not exactly sure.
Hmm.
He's a talented rapper also. So yeah.
Yeah, what's funny is I thought I saw Rome Streets on it, and because it says DJ Rome's on Street,
Oh, yeah.
and so my brain kind of mix up Streets and
Yeah,
Rome.
the track is called Streets and the guy is called Rome's, which is
Yeah.
just really close to Rome
But then
Streets.
underneath it, I was like, MF Doom.
Yeah, MF Doom's on it.
But there's some good people, and then I'm just scrolling through as we're talking. But like,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, I'd say if you're gonna go in try to get into Blue a little more, if you're gonna try to get into Blue a little more, I'd go next to, now I know we were just talking about the whole long album thing, but I'd go for his 2020 album Miles.
Yeah.
Now that album is like long, like way too long
Okay.
for anyone to, or at least for I should say way too long for me to enjoy casually. But the individual tracks that you pick out from there, and it's similar to Below the Heavens. Every time that I hear a song that I haven't heard from there in a while, I like it. Yeah, some incredible songs on there. It's just like it's like an hour and 40 minutes long though, and it's a long time to listen to music. Yeah. Okay. All right. We're back. Slight technical difficulty. We're back. No problem.
Man. That's crazy. Anyway, you were saying about
Oh, I was just saying about Miles. It's a really long time to sit in one place and listen to music, but some of the tracks on there and the beats are just kind of mind blowing. So yeah, I recommend Below the Heavens. I recommend Miles.
I definitely didn't hate Below the Miles. It was good. It just, it's gonna be an album that I come back to, and
yeah. And I hope you like continue to find like random tracks that you're like, oh, this is really good. Listen to this for a couple weeks or whatever.
I'll be like,
yeah, do it. I love this album so much. But yeah, I think that's pretty much sounds like about all I have to say for Below the Heavens. It is definitely considered a classic in a lot of like tight hip hop circles, and it probably doesn't come to a lot of people's minds when they think of best rap album from the 2000s, but like it will probably come up in my mind when I think about that. So
sweet.
So yeah, I'm glad you got to experience it, and hopefully some viewers will get to experience it too. But yeah, that's all I got for that.
Sweet, dude. Do you want to do what we're listening to, or do like
our typical kind of thing? If you're kind of new around here, I guess, is like we talk about whatever we want to talk about at this time of the episode. So
yeah, we do a little
I definitely have one to talk about, not in depth, but a little in depth, but something I know you're really into. But yeah, I listened to Meet the Moonlight by Jack Johnson, and if anyone who saw it last week knows, you put this album, I want to say, at probably like 8 or 7 for albums of the year.
Yeah.
Which is obviously pretty high praise, but yeah, it deserved it, because this album, like, dude, this album ripped, man. Like every song was like a banger,
and it was the album was more full than his other albums, if that makes sense. Like he put a lot of instruments
honestly
in the album, and it's kind of sadder topics too, like Costume Party is like kind of sad, and like
honestly, but it felt like, I might go as far as say as this is my favorite or probably second favorite.
No way. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was shocked.
I like the album a lot. I think I sometimes forget that it's a new album. Like when I listen to it now, like I'll show music and it'll stumble upon it. Like, man, what a Jack Johnson album is this song on again? I'm like, oh, it's 2022 album. Like, no fucking way. Like,
yeah, man.
It's so good. He doesn't miss.
My favorite is definitely probably In Between Dreams, which I think is
a great song.
Cold take, but other than In Between Dreams, this is probably my favorite Jack Johnson. Yeah, I like Costume Party a lot. I like the title track a lot. I like One Step Ahead. Like I literally like the whole track list. I was like genuinely shocked by how good I found this album. So I definitely want to take a minute to highlight that on the podcast and just say, I guess, thank you for the recommendation, because it was fire. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, you got something?
I got a whole bunch.
Right. I know you always have a whole bunch. I got a whole bunch too, but yeah.
I swim in music every week. Like literally, I probably add,
which is cool.
Songs in.
Riley's a music hoarder, dude. He sleeps around, but
listen, I come back.
Dude, there's nothing wrong. Hey, there's nothing wrong with.
He always comes back
around.
Yeah. My new thing right now is the new Arcs album. So if you want to listen to that on the side, that'd be cool.
I definitely do. Yeah, you don't have to assign that one to me.
Okay. Yeah, it's good. You didn't listen to any of the singles, right?
No, I said I was waiting for the album, which is typically what I'll do.
I think I need to stop listening to singles because it ruins when the album comes out for me.
That's my
this song hundreds of times already.
That's my thing too. Like, for example, I mean, for my favorite artists, like for JID, for example, I listen to the hell out of surround sound and dance now. I wouldn't say it ruined them for me, but
I think that what was crazy about that album and why it was number one for me is that I did that too. But the album,
and it's still amazing.
Still listen to those songs 100 times over.
Me too.
Especially Dance Now. Like Dance Now is probably one of the best songs on the album.
Dance Now, and here's the thing: they both might be some of the best songs on the album. But going back to what you said, like when I rank them, I'm not really thinking of putting them at the top, although they might be. I don't know. I just heard them a lot.
Yeah. With the new Arcs album, I believe Electrophonic Chronic.
Sick name, by the way, and sick cover. I really like
it's kind of psychedelic cover. They're really banking on the stoner rock.
Yeah, but I like that they lean into it. I don't know.
It's like a weed bowl, but it's like the apple weed bowl, the classic. Well, you went through that as a kid, but that's the first thing you smoke weed out of is an apple, whatever.
Yeah, and both their album covers are really awesome. I think I prefer the first one a little
Yeah, I
to the
like the
new one,
colors
but
of the first one better.
yeah, the
Like, this
first
is
one,
more like pop art.
yeah, no, but that Yours Dreamily album cover is like
It's so
really
cool.
awesome.
It's so
Like I love that
funky.
album
Like, I love
cover.
it,
It's in
but
our Twitter header because it looks
oh, it's
cool
one of my favorite
and we love the
albums.
album.
But yeah, like, I was listening to this album, and I think as it went on, I liked more songs and more songs. So, yeah, it was great. Definitely recommend, this band, Bass Drum of Death is produced I think their newest album is produced by the drummer of the Black Keys, and it sounds
Okay.
cool. Like, it's kind of like older Black Keys sounding kind of music, but definitely not the same type of blues inspired, more like they're inspired by garage rock, so it's not really gonna sound bluesy.
Mhm.
Um, I got really into Sick recently because we talked about it last week.
Yes.
Um,
I love the kind of transformation you've had on Sick because we talked about it a little last week, but I know it wasn't always your favorite, but I love to hear that you're listening to it because I love that record to death. So.
mhm. Oh, and I listened to Whenever If Ever.
Oh yeah. Did you like that or what? I
Yeah,
thought
it
it would
was
kind of be
good.
your style. Yeah.
It was definitely one of those albums that I was like, oh, middle school me would have ate this shit up.
Right, for sure. It's a
Yeah.
little that was the same for me as like so I was on Apple Music, and I was looking at just like the recommendations and it was like if you like Midwest emo, and I'm like, well, I kind of like Midwest emo. Like I definitely
Yeah.
used to for sure. So I checked it out. Well, actually the main reason I checked it out is because the band name of these guys is just like insane and it drew me in. The band's name is The World is a Beautiful Place and I Am No Longer Afraid to Die. That's a sick name. So I'm gonna listen to this. And
Like, is this emo or is this kind of like an indie rock band? And that's what, like, I was surprised when I was like, whoa, what the fuck is this?
super emo. I mean, well, it's still indie rock. I don't know. I'd
It's
say
hard. Some of it is indie, some of it's,
yeah. I'd say Heartbeat in the Brain and the outro track Getting Sodas. Both of those are sick. I love those
I
songs.
love
I've
getting
listened to
sodas.
those. Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
those are my
it's
main
crazy to say
takeaways
that.
from the album.
What was that?
Those are my main takeaways from the
Oh,
album.
okay.
Those two songs. Yeah.
Yeah. The layers of skin what is it? We don't shed or something. What was it called?
The layers of skin we drag
We
around.
drag around. The titles are so long that I'm like dragging Spotify across my computer screen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I can't
It's
read.
almost like classic Fall Out Boy.
Oh
They
yeah,
used
dude.
to do that. And Panic at the Disco.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
um,
Fall Out Boy's dropping a new album in a couple months. I'll
I
be
hope
tuning
it's
into
kind
that.
of older sounding. That's
Yeah,
it.
I'm sure it won't be, but I will be tuning in.
He's got some pipes on him. He's better than Brendan Urie.
Yeah, they Panic at the Disco just split up, which really just means Brendan Urie's quitting because he's the last one left. But
yeah. Well, and once like I guess he's just as kind of a weirdo scumbag. So
yeah, he is actually, yeah, and I don't think they've made a good song in like a solid 15 years. So.
True. Yeah, well, fucking you bum. That was a bummer. But I'm gonna keep going on. But
yeah, go on.
There's this album that is a self-titled album by the band The Mystery Lights.
Okay.
Really cool cover, great album. Listen to it. It's 32 minutes long.
Ooh, I love a 30-minute album. That just really sings to my soul.
Fun. And then this album by this band called Racoma it's an EP, so it's like 5 songs, and it's Racoma by Racoma, and it's all the songs on it are great. Country is probably my favorite song by them. Get On and Howl, top 3 from that EP that I've been jamming. My sister got me into Hotel Ugly. He's blown up right now.
Okay.
He's like R&B. This song In Dreams by Sierra Farrell. It's kind of like a country folky song.
Ooh.
There's In Dreams alternate version. Fucking beautiful song. Love it.
I love beautiful songs. I have to give that a listen. I've returned to some of the old classics lately. I just found myself listening to like comfort music. I listened to Care for Me again recently because that album is astonishing.
Yeah.
I listened to Acid Rap by Chance. Like, remember we listened to that on vinyl when we were hanging out. That was a sick experience.
You gotta listen to Juice, man. You can't.
I know. I listened to Juice on YouTube
Juice.
when I listened to the album, which has only been once since I heard it on vinyl, which obviously has Juice. But But listen to that SZA album a little bit. I didn't really talk about it in my album of the years episode.
Yeah,
A lot of people are really vibing heavy with the SZA album.
it's okay.
It's solid. Yeah, there's some songs that are. I think it's a little too long for being a little too repetitive for me. But there's some songs that really stand out on there.
I think her first album was like really good, and then this
Like
one,
Control set the standards like way too high.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then her second album is good, but I don't know. It's so perfectly produced. I think it's like
A little too poppy.
it's so it's so poppy. Like I feel bad.
Well, she's obviously going for, and she got it. She's going for like the home run pop hit TikTok takeover #1 Billboard, and she did it, which is good for her. I do still prefer
that song
Control.
Wasn't
though.
even on it. What do you talk? What song are you talking about?
Well, I meant really the album as a whole, but I mean, I think Kill Bill is really the biggest hit.
Oh
which
yeah,
I love that song.
I got the arrow, whatever. I feel like what's sad about that album is I hope SZA doesn't really go into like general pop, like she's gonna sound like every other artist.
I feel like she's probably might have tasted a little bit of that fame and popularity, and she's probably going that way.
She was so on Control, dude.
She could pull a Steve Lacy and say, I fucking hate the mainstream, and just say maybe she tries to stay in her niche, but I think she's probably gone to the dark side, if you will. I don't know.
She's so cool. Well, I don't hate her new album. I don't know. It felt so flat.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest. Maybe I'm just not the demographic or.
Well, I think neither of us are the demographic, and I don't love R&B in general, but I think there's some. My roommate loves it, so I'm hearing it a lot, kind of through that.
He loves it.
Oh, he loves it. Yeah, he loves it. I love some. I don't know. I wish Phoebe Bridgers was on it more. Her part was good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Boy Genius.
Boy Genius.
Boy Genius.
What? By who?
Shut the fuck up, dude. Look up Boy Genius.
Did I miss something?
Now it's Phoebe Bridgers and two other chicks who are both awesome indie like folk chicks.
Oh
and
shit!
Have a collective called Boy Genius.
I see it now. I didn't hear about this.
Shout out to Abby if you're listening. She was like, Riley, do you know about Boy Genius dropped? And I was like, who the fuck is Boy Genius? Because
yeah.
I'm not a Phoebe guy.
That's the thing. I need someone like your girlfriend, because all I know about in terms of like new stuff coming out.
Keep your fucking grubby mitts off of my girlfriend.
I'm not going near your girlfriend. I said I need someone like your girlfriend.
Okay.
I didn't say I need your girlfriend.
I know.
I just need someone to keep me in the loop in like the indie scene. You know what I mean?
It's not indie, it's folk, Rosario. Okay.
All right, man. I need somebody to keep me in the loop in the versatile genre of not rap.
I'm your indirect connection.
Okay, man. Yeah. Now I know that on March 31st, 2023, there's a new Phoebe Bridgers, Julian Baker, and Lucy.
Listen to their old stuff. You're gonna start. You're gonna cry. You're gonna like literally be like, "This is."
Dude, I hope I do. Should I listen to the singles or should I save it?
I'm gonna save the singles, dude. They're great. They are like amazing. I would say listen.
Remember, like 5 minutes ago, we were talking about like not listening to the singles.
Fuck that,
bro. They have an EP. I'm gonna listen to their EP literally as soon as I hang up with you. Don't even worry about it, bro.
Okay.
Geez, I'm literally writing it down right now.
That was intense for no reason, but
shit, man. I got excited. We both got excited.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
When we hear Phoebe Bridgers on this podcast, shit hits the fan. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny because me in the car, I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is so sad. Like, how do you enjoy this? And I just can't, like, but when I'm by myself,
yeah, you listen to it right now. It's 8:36 p.m. on a Monday night. There's 6 inches of snow outside. That's when you listen to it.
When I'm by myself and I need something to feel like, you know, like
her music like gives you a hug.
Yeah, and okay, but if I'm in the car, I'm gonna jam out. I
didn't tell you to listen to it in the car. No one told you to listen to it in the car. Listen to Thickfreakness in the car, man.
Here, you got a big point, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude.
Have you heard Mavi's End of the Earth EP?
No.
Yeah.
I've heard the songs off of it.
Yeah. Definitely worth a check if you're big into him like I am.
Okay.
Pretty solid. I listened to, you know what I've been listening to, man? I think we already talked about it. Wallows dropped a single called "Wish Me Luck" like over a month ago. That's got to be one of my favorite songs of 2022. Like I've been jamming that song like constantly, and I'm like extremely excited for their next album.
I like how we literally said don't listen to the singles, and then you're listening to singles. Yeah, I like the song.
It's so good. It's incredible. I don't know what to say.
I like that single. It's pretty good.
Yeah, me too. I listened to Dog Boy by Zillakami, which was like a super crazy rock / honestly kind of like grunge kind of rap. I don't know. It's like that aggressive kind of rock rap type stuff, which sometimes I'm into. Sometimes it's a little too much for me.
Right.
This one was a little too much for me, but it was cool.
Cool.
Are you a little Sims fan or not really?
Oh yeah, fucking love Little Sims, dude.
I figured you did. Yeah.
I like both Little Sims and Rico Nasty. Those two like
yeah.
two girls are like some of the best rappers, like women rappers, right?
Yeah, Little Sims is crazy talented. I think a lot of the times she's kind of fits into the category of one of those artists who I recognize like, oh, she's super talented. She's a great rapper, but like she just doesn't always make like music that I want to listen to, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know, like I don't have a lot of her songs on my playlist or whatever, but she's super talented. And her newest album is called No Thank You. I checked it out, and there's some really solid tracks on there. She's still yet to like blow me away with an album. I think she might be a little overrated, but like I said, she's like super talented. So yeah, gonna keep looking out for her. But yeah, that about does it for like the new music I've listened to.
Yeah, me too. I actually found a new album that I'm gonna give you next week.
Okay. I forgot to do that. Yeah, I have a couple ideas for it to give you.
Okay, well, I was gonna give you this album Electric Mud by Muddy Waters, but it's super guitar heavy and just fuzzy and shitty, and like you might be tired out from Thickfreakness. So I was gonna bring Liz Cooper, who is one of my favorite like female artists, like in recent memory. And her album Window Flowers, I think it's Liz Cooper and the Stampede is
like Window Flowers, you said?
Yep. And
let's go for it.
So it's a great, you might not like a couple songs that I fucking love, like for certain reasons. So I'll give you that album.
Okay. Yeah, I will do the same thing you did. I was thinking of maybe another rap album for you, but I want to keep it fresh also, go a totally different direction. I'm gonna give you an album that is not on streaming. I'm gonna send you the files, and
what?
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I'm excited, dude.
Okay. It's gonna be
like doing drugs for the first time or something.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be Ferris Wheel on Fire by Neutral Milk Hotel.
Oh my god, you shut up. I will listen.
Yeah, we're gonna throw it back
tonight.
Wait, what'd you say?
I'm gonna listen to that tonight.
Okay, yeah, bet. It's like crazy short. It's like 20 minutes. So I don't know how much content we're gonna be able to like pull out of that, but like
it's Neutral Milk Hotel.
Dude, it's just incredible. It's really just amazing. You got to hear it. So yeah, I'll send you over the files for that before we get off the call. Okay. But yeah, yeah. So there you have it. Next week, you know what we'll be doing. Same place, same time. You know where to find us. Fridays at noon. It's about all I think we have for this week, though. We're pretty much reaching our time.
Yeah,
that I should say. But anything else to say before we send them off here?
Fuck, dude. Follow us on Twitter. Follow our Twitter of Mike's Diary and Downerg91, and then
I'll link it in the description.
At the bottom of the screen, it's kind of going past my finger now. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see that, but if you're not, it's Classic Mix Up Pod on Twitter.
I'm gonna link it in the description if you want to follow.
Yeah, so Classic Mix Up Pod, and so we post stuff. Me and Rosario both are on that Twitter, and we post cool stuff, funny stuff, whatever, and then our personal stuff, likes, retweets. We're all going crazy all the time. So
yeah, big
follow us on that. For a little note to go, I guess, kind of like be a little creative, be a little. Everybody's got a little.
Try something new this week,
dude. If you got to try new food, man,
try new food. Sure,
try new food.
Try a new hobby.
go if you're in a snowy area, go like play in the snow. I don't know.
Watch a new movie.
Watch a
That's
new
what I
movie,
that's what I
dude.
like doing lately.
Yeah, watching new movies is great. I think being creative is something that as we get older in life, we kind of lose. I personally have lost it recently, like in in the last year, I've lost it and kind of regained it strongly. And this is one of my avenues to kind of express my
Sweet. That's
creativity and my
awesome.
thoughts and that kind of thing. And it's really helped me get back into every aspect of my life. It's really like kind of pick at my brain and really figure out what I'm thinking. So I think it's really important for everybody, even if you're told your whole life that you can't draw or can't read or shit like that. Like if you have a thought, go after it. And that could be creativity. That could just be moving across country. Do it. If it doesn't work out, there's always another way. So yeah, I would say
Sweet.
pursue what you got in your mind.
Sweet. I love that.
Yeah.
And as always, keep listening to music, keep loving
Yes,
life.
dude. Music is beautiful. Music is awesome. Music is fun. Music is
Yeah.
great.
We literally wouldn't be here without it. So there you go.
Love me some music.
Yeah, I think that pretty much does it though for episode 13. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys at the
Thanks,
end, it
everybody.
means a lot to us because we
Appreciate it.
love doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.